Okay, it is not up to me. It is up to rules.
If rules wants us to come back, we'll do it.
Okay, we'll plan on that. All right, I'm not seeing any further comments. So with that, Rep. Avalar moves to recommend that House Floor Amendment 2 to House Bill 4379 be recommended for adoption. Do we have leave? With partisan leave.
Partisan pending the amendment.
Terrific. So with partisan leave, we have 8 votes in favor, 2 opposed, 0 voting present. House Floor Amendment 2 to House Bill 4379 is recommended for adoption, will be favorably reported to the House floor, but we will probably see you back in committee. And with that, I am going to put Rep. Cassidy in the chair. Oh, does it have my thing on? No, I don't need that. Okay.
Cassidy in the chair. The chair recognizes Rep. Lapointe to present House Floor Amendment 2 to House Bill 1811. I'll take a quick look. We've got 3 proponents. Greg Cox from Compass Pathways for oral testimony. Jesse McLaughlin, from Reason for Hope and the Veteran Mental Health Leadership Coalition, record of appearance only. And Ann Schaefer from Definium Therapeutics, record of appearance only. And I also have a substitution letter from Speaker Welch replacing permanent member Rep. Briel with temporary member Mussman. And with that, take it away, Representative Lapointe.
Thank you so much. I am going to invite any witnesses to sit at the table and just take a moment and clarify something with myself on the witness slip roll. One moment.
Clerk, please add Rep. Mussman to the roll.
Okay, excellent. Wanted to get something straight here. And the new ILGA is something we are all adjusting to. Okay, so just look at the amendment for House Bill 1811. I'm going to say what the bill does broadly, and our witness will go into a little more detail. But this was stuck in rules for a bit. Some things needed to be worked out, so that's why we're hearing this bill for the first time on the later side of pre-deadline stuff. So this bill directs the Department of Human Services to reschedule any substance that is currently scheduled as a Schedule I controlled substance by the DEA if the DEA reschedules it, which of course happens at the federal level, for the purpose of treating mental health disorders if the substance is approved by the FDA. So broadly speaking, this bill situates Illinois to get these medications to treat mental health disorders to people in Illinois quicker, only if the DEA reschedules the drug and only if there is FDA approval. And the reason I wanted to acclimate myself to the witness slips is because Chair Cassidy mentioned one of the proponent witnesses is an organization called Reason for Hope and the Veterans Mental Health Leadership Coalition. So I want to point out that this bill can apply to a broad swath of drugs to treat severe mental health conditions. But one of the things it might apply to are synthetic psychedelics, which if you've been paying attention, some of them have been going through the FDA process. And people with treatment-resistant mental health issues and PTSD, and as we know, veterans are overpopulated in that group of people, have been advocating for more access to more effective medications for a long time. and there are various policy and advocacy efforts happening in other states and in Illinois. There are other states like Colorado and Oregon who are out in front of us. There are other red states who have made significant progress, in particular when it comes to veterans and members of law enforcement, to have ways to access these medications for treatment-resistant PTSD and depression. So I want to mention that because you might be thinking, what is the connection to synthetic psychedelics, which some people think of a scary thing. But if you really start paying attention, you will see that red and blue states are looking at this hard and are passing laws to get these medication to folks so people can have relief. So with that, I will turn it over to the witness. Thanks for being here, Greg Cox.
Thank you, Chairman. My name is Greg Cox, and I represent Compass Pathways, which is currently in phase 3 of FDA trials for synthetic psilocybin. The bill doesn't really change the process of how we reschedule drugs in the state of Illinois. It more defines the timeline. When we got this client, they wanted to know, okay, what happens if the FDA reschedules a drug? So we looked into it, and we found that there is something in statute that kind of says what happens, but it doesn't spell it out. So what I tried to do is establish a process in statute that spells it out more clearly. The first thing, it says that the Department of Health, or the Department of Human Services, which is the department that does the rescheduling, they have 30 days to reschedule the drug. But the statute was silent on what happens if they don't do it in 30 days. So I put a section in there that said if they don't do it in 30 days, the drug is automatically rescheduled in accordance with the Federal Drug Administration. The second thing was there was an objection process. Again, it wasn't defined. It just said there is an objection process. I asked around to see what that process was. No one knew because no one had objected. So I left the objection process in there, but I changed it to, I kind of used JCAR as the guide. I kind of wanted to use, I used 45 days because 45 days is first notice and it has a hearing. But ultimately, the arbiter, and I'm not changing this from existing statute, the arbiter of the objection process is DHS. So it's kind of, it mimics what JCAR does. You know, as an entity, I can't go to JCAR and say I object. JCAR has to object to a rule. So I went with the JCAR process of DHS objects and then DHS arbitrates that objection, which is exactly the same that JCAR does. Now, I didn't add anything in here, but I think it's important to know that the bottom of this section, and I haven't changed this as existing statute, it also says right after all this objection process, when DHS makes a decision, that the General Assembly can override that decision in statute, which again, exact same as JCAR. If JCAR does something you guys don't like, and there's 12 people that decide something at JCAR and the General Assembly doesn't like it, you guys can pass a statute, overrides the rule. So that's what I went with. I kind of went with structure, but it really doesn't change the process. It just gives it more definition. Any questions? I'm open.
Thank you. I'm going to take a little chair prerogative and ask a question before going to questions. The underlying bill that's being replaced, I'm just curious, did that land somewhere else, or are we not, is that over for now?
Your staff is nodding that it did land somewhere else.
Okay. Okay, I remembered the hearing, but I didn't know if it was the same bill. Okay, thank you. Any questions from members? Representative Ness?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah. I have a question. First of all, this would apply, like this happens with all sorts of drugs. Can you give an example
Correct.
of some that have gone under this process that we've also done here in Illinois?
I only know of one, and it didn't go well, and that's kind of what raised the concerns of my client, and it was Epidiolex. And Epidiolex it didn't go smoothly, and it took a long time to get rescheduled at the state of Illinois level. The 30 days kind of went and passed and was gone, and so that's why, a pharmaceutical company that takes their time and effort and money into this wanted a little bit more assurance. So it has happened. It's quite honestly a procedure that happens that most of us don't even know anything about, but the situation with Epidiolex is kind of what spurred the legislation.
But in this particular realm, there are a number of substances that are considered controlled substances used to treat all sorts of conditions. And because they're controlled and they're approved by the FDA, there's this whole regulated process that we are now falling in line with to add whatever comes down the road in the future as research and development and innovations improve, right? Like this is a mechanism for the state to be able to look at these things and get this treatment to people in a more, what I'm hearing, in a more controlled and regulated manner than people having to go and do this in some unregulated or uncontrolled manner, which leads to all sorts of problems. This is really an attempt to create a process that
Correct.
to make it safe for consumers, because that's what the FDA does, and that's, if the federal government's saying it's okay, like,
Right.
right? And well, I would say those words carefully, but I would say that in general, that's the idea.
Correct.
So, because in weighing this, and I'm hearing some of the concerns too, I want to be rest assured that in my understanding of what we're doing, that this is really designed to help control and regulate something and not lead people down paths that are dangerous and uncontrolled and lead them into greater harm. So I see this as doing that, and I just want to make sure I'm clear that that's what we're doing here.
No, I think you're right, Representative. I mean, there's checks and balances all along the way. At the FDA level, there's public comment period, there's trial period, there's all kinds of this stuff. Then at the state level, we're going to have the ability to say whether we agree with the FDA or not. Then if we don't agree with the FDA, we have a public comment period. DHS will decide, and then again, if they don't agree, if the General Assembly doesn't agree with DHS, then they can weigh in too. So yes, there's checks and balances along the way.
Okay. I can sleep with that. Thank you.
Minority Spokesman Schmidt.
So I'm reading here that it removes third-party objections from delaying the process. What, can you give me an example of what a third-party objection would be?
I don't really know if I can give you a good one because, like I said, I've checked around and no one ever remembers that happening. But being a contract lobbyist as I am, I can envision a time maybe where someone contracts with me and says, hey, I want to object to that. The third-party objection, again, the statute's not well defined. It doesn't say right now how that third-party objection is handled at all. The reason I removed it is because I was mimicking the JCAR process. And in the JCAR process, a third party cannot object to an administrative rule. They can comment on an administrative rule, but they can't object. Only JCAR can object. Now, if I was a lobbyist that had an issue with a rescheduling drug, I would contact DHS in that 30-day period that they had to decide whether they're going to reschedule the drug, and I would say, hey, I would like you guys to have public hearings on this. In absence of DHS adhering to my request for public hearings, I would then go to the General Assembly and say, whatever DHS does, I don't agree with that. So if I'm a third party that doesn't agree with this, then I'm going to have different bites at the apple that I can object.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions? There being no further testimony or debate, Representative Mussman moves to recommend that House Floor Amendment 2 to House Bill 1811 be recommended for adoption. Is there leave? Clerk, please take the roll.
LaPointe,
Yes.
Cassidy,
Yes.
Moyler,
Yes.
Morris, Ness,
Yes.
Schmidt,
Yes.
Windhorse,
No.
Hernandez, Avlar,
Yes.
Mussman.
Yes.
There being 9 votes in favor, 1 vote opposed, and none voting present, House Floor Amendment 2 to House Bill 1811 is recommended for adoption and will be favorably reported to the House floor. LaPointe, back in the chair.
Thank you so much, Rep. Cassidy. Just a note on that last bill. We held a powerful subject matter hearing in December 2024 that we invited the House Veterans Committee into to hear. It happened to be about the power of psychedelics to treat severe mental health issues. I believe you were participating, Rep. Schmidt, but anyway, my point is this is an ongoing issue about how to far better treat treatment-resistant major depression and PTSD. Illinois and other states will continue to do that work, and I know that this bill means a lot to veterans in particular, so just want to thank the committee for moving it through and particularly appreciate the bipartisan support. And with that, there is no further business before the Human Services Committee, so we will recess to the call of the chair.